Welcome back to Baggage Begun Healing Hearts and Minds podcast. I'm Tami Mahmali, and today's episode is extra special because I get to sit down with a dear friend of mine, someone I've admired for years, Christiana Brooks, and I met a few years ago. And since then, I've had the privilege of watching her journey unfold, both as a gifted artist, designer, as a powerful woman who uplifts others. She's not just building a brand, she's building a movement through Love Snap. You're going to see what she created. It's brilliant. She's been supporting women in reconnecting with their thoughts, rewiring their stories, and showing up for themselves in a deeper way. I've been quietly cheering her on from the sidelines, and today I'm so excited to finally have this soulful conversation with her. So, hi, Christiana.
Hi, Tammy. I could not be more grateful for you in my life and getting a chance to sit with you today and talking about some things that we all really need to hear and we need to work on our daily lives so that we can keep making our vessel bigger and share more and give our gifts in a more fluent and abundant way, right? Without any hesitation, without a lot of the sort of boundaries and questioning that we all do on a daily basis. How will we come across? How are we perceived? Are we good enough? All those things, all the crazy inner dialogue that we have. So, yeah.
I'm so happy you're here. And to start off, can you share a little about who you are and the path that's brought you to where you are today?
Yes. Yes. So, Tammy, you know me well. I actually I'm a German American. My parents came here when I was young, and I grew up with a lot of perfectionism in my family, and I also grew up with I think, a lot of self imposed critical inner dialogue. I had a lot of sort of self criticism and shame and, not doing things good enough. And I do, now that I've gotten, more mature in my life, I do see that it's something that I am here to break for my daughter because it is a chain. I saw that my grandmother behaved that way, my mom behaved that way. And they were beautiful, loving women, but they were so hard on themselves, like incredibly hard on themselves. And somehow, I definitely got a lot of that. And even with a lot of those traits and being hard on myself, I still have, had a very successful career in life. I went on from college and studied graphic design and then got into advertising. So I've been a creative director in advertising for almost 30 years now. It's a long time. I still love it on some levels, but it really, you know, I don't want to peddle things or sell things that people don't need and things that are not really going to be purposeful or help them in their lives. So I really have started to lean into my own brand, which is a brand called Love Snap. And it's a bracelet that I'm wearing on my arm, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But what was meaningful to me is during this whole journey, especially as a woman in a career that is very intense. And I had two small children at home, and I was a single mom. So there was a lot going on. That critical inner dialogue or that inner voice that we have, those negative thoughts that kind of come in and out. What we don't realize is if we don't catch those thoughts quickly, they start to take root and they become habitual and they become actual grooves in the brain. They become like our go to, which is a go to of I feel fearful or I don't feel good about myself or, what if, what's going to happen, or should I have done something different or better? All this questioning and those sort of things. I was living with a lot of that. Also, in a very competitive field, advertising is extremely competitive and you really have to sell yourself all the time. Not only are you selling your projects, but you really have to sell yourself. And I was really struggling with a lot of, kind of like, I don't know if people are using this term a lot still, but imposter syndrome, just feeling like I'm out here and I look like I'm all together and I'm feeling great and I'm doing these things. But really inside, I'm having a lot of struggles, a lot of like self doubt, a lot of fear, a lot of shame, things that were sort of held over from me actually having kind of a difficult divorce where I took a lot of that responsibility on myself. So I sought out a life coach. And at that time, she gave me a modality, which was to wear a simple rubber band on my arm. It's called cognitive behavioral therapy, and I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with it. But it's really incredible because what it is it is a pattern interrupter. So if you actually wear the bracelet here on your arm, this right here, this hits your vagus nerve and it does sting, but it immediately snaps you into the present moment. And what happened was she had said to me, listen, all of these voices and thoughts and things that you're struggling with, they're not yours. They're not real. They're not true. And you need to figure out how to first be aware of them, then be able to physically push them aside, put in a good thought, and then repeat. So I call it like awareness, um, action, repetition. So the awareness is I see the bracelet and I say, oh, what am I thinking about? And then I realize, gosh, you know what? I'm dwelling on maybe an argument I had with someone, or that I don't feel good in my body today, or I don't feel thin enough, or I don't feel beautiful enough, or whatever those thoughts are. So what happened was when she gave me this sort of assignment, she said, I want you to wear this for 30 days. This was the rubber, just a simple rubber band. And I was blown away, Tammy. I was like, the amount of thoughts that I was catching and realizing how often my mind was in monkey mind or running ahead to a fear state or being behind in the past. And I was so kind of excited about the fact that I am actually empowered in my own life to make choices and choose thoughts that will change my life. If I let the thoughts choose me, I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to be on the hamster wheel. But if I can start to be aware of what I'm thinking about and stand guard at the door of my mind and realize that those thoughts coming in, I mean, this is precious territory up here. This is where everything happens. So if we can really sort of celebrate this idea that we have the ability to change our lives with what we're thinking about, because our thoughts become things, they become the manifest world we live in. So I just started, wearing it and doing it. And as I mentioned, I was really blown away by the amount of times I was catching myself having these unwanted thoughts, either about myself or even someone else, or situations, relationships. And then I kept wearing it, and I wore this rubber band for about 10 years. Not kidding. I mean, I didn't wear it every day, but I wore it a lot. And I would be, dressed giving a presentation or at a cocktail party, and I have this like crappy rubber band on my arm. So I had this dream and this fantasy that I was going to create a bracelet that would allow me to have the same modality, but it would be beautiful and look like a beautiful piece of jewelry. So it took me about 10 years of thinking about it until COVID happened. And I had a little bit more time and bandwidth. And I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to design a bracelet that actually is a love snap, that is a love snap, a reminder to myself that I can put in the thoughts that are going to create a happier life for myself. So that's how it happened. And it's just been a complete gift, not only obviously for me personally, but for my family and for the people that, are my clientele. They really, really are appreciative to have something that is on their body all day long that's with them. I like to call it like your life coach or your wingman or your therapist, because every time you see it, you can ask yourself what you're thinking about, or you can start to catch yourself and go, hey, you know what? That's not a thought I want to think. That's not going to get me anywhere. So then you make that decision to snap the bracelet. I usually take a breath and I put in a mantra that works for me at that moment. Is it I'm enough? Because maybe I'm feeling not enough. So I will say I'm enough, and I'll do that throughout the day. Oftentimes I'll pick one thing for the day just to reinforce it. And then other times I find that, you know, the most important thing we can do is be present and be mindful. And it's a very hard thing for people to do in this crazy world right now. So the more presence we have, the more mindfulness we have, the more we can create. because if our mind is in, what's going to happen next week, and I'm having financial worries, or I'm worried about the kids, or I'm worried about this, I'm nowhere near any kind of space of love, positivity, self growth, because my mind, I'm off balance. I'm over here thinking about things that are not going to really serve me. Or we're either there in our thinking a lot, or we're in the past. Somebody hurt us, a situation that hurt us, something we didn't do well, something we feel shame about, something we didn't achieve, whatever those things are. So, as they say, and I love Eckhart Tolle, who's always really talking about the presence of now and being in the present moment, because that is where we can actually create our life, is now. So, as I'm talking to you right now, I'm planting these seeds of, like, this beautiful sisterhood we have, and this relationship of, like, trying to work on ourselves on a daily basis. And it's so fun. I think that's the other thing people forget sometimes. Like, they think of self work as like work. And yes, it is work. And you do have to be courageous to take on some of the things that are challenging. But you can also look at it like, start to look at it in terms of, like, how much can I grow? How quick can I grow? How often can I catch these thoughts that I'm having that are, setting me up for failure or disrupting my blessings? I'm blocking my own blessing by having a negative thought, as opposed to letting in the loving God energy, which is really where we need to be, in our daily life. So,
I am just going to say that I'm so glad to hear that you are empowering yourself, other women, and choosing to break the cycle, not letting negativity or generational pain continue into the next generation. That kind of healing is really powerful and inspiring, because I have been witnessing in the last few years when I work with people. A lot of time those emotions, old stories, limiting beliefs and patterns are just something, they don't belong to us. They belong to, these are just the energies that we got from generations ago and lifetimes ago. So I'm so happy you are aware of it. And the other thing that I want to talk about is that maybe looking at this life as a play, not so much as a work, because I used to say I need to work on myself.
yes,
Maybe
yes,
a
yes.
role, and this is just a play, because I know that in your work you play a lot. I see, I have been watching you. You're very playful, always playing with the clothes, with your accessories. I admire you for that. Even your
Oh,
page on Instagram and Facebook is so colorful. I mean, it's never like someone else's. It's uniquely yours. Your outfits, the coloring, your glasses. It's beautiful to watch that. And you have always had such a beautiful eye as a creative designer, artist. But what I love even more is how you combine beauty with your truth, which is your purpose,
mm,
this
mm.
radiant way of looking at life, embracing yourself, your beauty, and carrying this quiet confidence in who you are. I just love your energy.
Oh.
I want to ask you, can you share how your creative background influenced your healing journey, and how you have come to embody that self love and confidence from the inside out? Because I know you, I know it's not fake. You're showing everyone the truth about yourself.
Yeah, yeah. That's a great question. And thank you so much. You're so lovely and kind in your compliments. And I appreciate you actually also just calling out the growth. Like, you've known me and seen me too. So it's like kind of a neat thing that we're, like, at this place in our lives. I think the most important thing to me has always been, since I'm little, is beauty. Just, making things beautiful, looking at things. And that was inherited. I will say also, my great grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, they were all very into the details. I noticed that everything in their house was always in threes, always. So, there would be, if there was any kind of flower arrangement, it would be like three vases or three candles, or, which is sort of a sacred number. It's just so interesting. But I think that when you have an inclination and you want to see beautiful things and make beautiful things, I think it's a little bit of a double-edged sword, because there is a level of perfectionism in it for me, and that's something I have had to work on. But what, or I should say, play on. Let's change that. Something I had to play on, not work on. um, the I think the trick is, when you are someone who is, and this is everyone, every single beautiful soul on this planet is creative. Everyone is a creative. And so a lot of times I'll hear people, they'll look at work I've done or something and they'll say, "Oh, that's amazing, but I'm not creative." And I'm always like, well, of course you are. It's just somewhere along the way, you were either told that or you told yourself that. But letting your creativity out is a big part of healing. And you know that, Tammy, like pen to paper, writing, that's a source of creativity, moving energy, feeling, like you're getting to the next place. Whether it's painting or flower arranging or cooking or whatever those expressions are, you're moving that energy. And it's actually like a self love ritual, really, because you're really exploring that energy that is meant to be expressed through you, that only you can express. No one has your same genetic makeup, no one can do what you do. And I feel like finally getting to the place where you've done enough and you've looked enough to say, hey, you know what I have to offer is what I have to feel good about. And I just have to start celebrating what I can uniquely do as opposed to comparison, because that is another very big area. And I would love to share this with women. I don't know, how many people would, I mean, I would say pretty much most women do this, but in general, and men do too, but this compare and despair that we do as a culture is devastating. It's really tough, and it's been really hard for young women. I mean, I have a younger daughter, and you have girls as well, and they go through this phase of, they used to compare themselves to maybe one or two girls at their high school or their school, like we did. Now they're comparing themselves to the world, and they're comparing themselves to Photoshop and Facetune and retouching and AI, and it's not real. It's not even attainable for people. And that's just made it so much harder for us in this culture. And I think what we need to do is be uniquely feminine, uniquely us. And that's one of the reasons I really love this modality, is that the minute you start seeing that you're moving in a direction of pining for something or jealousy or not feeling like you're in your own skin, it's like snap back, like no, I'm going to honor and love what I have and do the best with what I have. And then I can be there for other people. But if I'm off balance and I'm wishing and hoping and wanting something different, whether it's work, career, love, whatever it is, I can't really be there for anybody. I hope I answered the question and I didn't meander off too far.
The way you answered was great, and I agree with you that we are all individuals and we are whole. And we talked a few minutes before we started this podcast that we don't want perfection because perfection is boring. And as long as we are above ground, we are whole. Perfect. We go underground and we are done with our mission. And each one of us, if you remember that we are just part of God, creations inside us. We are God's most beautiful creation, and each one of us is special. So the more we focus on our individuality, how special we are, what unique to us, and developing those traits instead of looking at everyone else and just being busy and living someone else's life, it's better if we hone in and focus on what we know how to do best, and then we coming out with our truth, and it's amplified. It's like a lighthouse. I used to have a teacher that said, if you're a lighthouse, the lighthouse just stand there and just beam with the light. Doesn't say, oh, I need to, let me see how I need to improve my light. And each one of us is like a beautiful tree. It's God's creation. It's like the river. Every day we are evolving, we are changing. We are not going to look at the tree and see the tree doesn't have leaves. And then the tree might say, oh, today I don't have leaves. Don't look at me.
Exactly.
And
Yeah.
like anything else in nature. And I love how you touched on that. Because we talked about comparison, I'm going to add to that, because we are human beings, when we compare ourselves, it's not exactly equal. Even two twins are not equal. Even
Right.
the twins that look the same, we all have something that is different. It's not that it's like we comparing apple to oranges or a bird to a fish. So
Exactly.
doesn't make sense. And if we understand that, maybe we're going to be able to understand that this comparison and jealousy, when we do that, we hold our energy. When we don't do that, it's the lowest vibration. We cannot manifest because then we are judging. We are in self
Yes.
doubt, and it's
Yes.
science. You cannot get and be who you want to be if you're engaging in this judgment, comparison, and self doubt. And you
Exactly.
talked about that.
Exactly. And that's so beautifully said. Judgment, comparison, self doubt. I love that. Those are the three killers for sure.
So, and it's science. I actually studied this science when I started my practice. A lot of my clients were asking, why so and so manifest things so fast and I cannot do? And I took a year to do a research, and it's science that says whenever you do these things that are like comparison, judgment, and self doubt, you are somehow in one of your chakras, you're closing the energetic flow that's supposed to go freely. So for me, it was eye opener, and thank God it was helpful to me to stop all of that and just look at myself as God's gift, creation. What how can I share my gifts? How I can share my contribution like you do with your art. So
It's so super poignant, Tammy, that you said that too, because I think that I try to encourage people when they get a bracelet, I say, you know what, pick one thing for this month for 21 days. 21 days is the lowest number of days they say you can start changing your rewiring of your brain. You can change a habit in as little as 21 days. But what I was going to say is if we just even to pick the one thing, let's say we all said today, hey, for the month of May, it's Mental Health Awareness Month right now, right? How do we want to improve our mental fitness? How are we going to improve our mental fitness? Because people are so busy talking about their physical fitness and their jobs and careers and relationships and all these things that go on. But if we even just tackled one thing that was something you may not even be aware of how often you're having judgmental thoughts, let's just say. So if you put that on your radar and you say, hey, you know what, this month I'm going to judge nothing. I'm not going to judge another person. I'm not going to judge myself. Every time I start to notice that there's a judgmental thought, it's like just stop, pause, snap, take that breath, and that sting reminds you, that thought is a negative. We don't want that thought. Let's do the positive thought. And, even just that alone can start making massive changes, massive.
absolutely. And I'm gonna add, because you were emphasizing how our language is important. So
Yes.
our language start with our intention, with our thoughts, and then it's our language, and the language dictate how we're gonna take the action or how we're gonna feel. So our feelings start much before we see it as an action through our thoughts. And let me tell you, people feel the energy. I have here people that come to me and say, I felt judged. They feel it. We feel when someone is not accepting us 100%.
Yes.
How many times you felt you went somewhere and you said this person had negative energy? The energy that we feel is because we feel the judgment.
Yes.
Not
Exactly. Exactly.
yeah. So you snap yourself. I do the forgiveness right away when the thought even come. And I notice that I start saying, please forgive me. I forgive you. I love you. Thank you for the lessons. So, because I don't want to hoard it in my energetic field.
Exactly. And that's the most important thing. There's another really great little nugget I learned along the way, which is from some different psychiatrists that I've been working with. Self correction is the only thing that actually really moves the needle in the end. So the reason I say that, and that's why I like for you, you're taking your pause and you're saying, okay, I'm immediately going to take a breath or a pause. I'm going to shift gears. So whether it's, a snap and a breath and a mantra, whatever it is that you choose, if you do it, you are taking the action. You are saying to yourself, hey, enough. I'm not going to do that. I'm shifting gears. I'm lovingly going to put in now something that is positive and healthy for myself. Because what happens a lot of times right now out in the world, there's so much out there that people are very reliant on other people. They want a pill, they want a quick fix, they want this, they want that. But and they might get a lot of beautiful fuel and energy from some of those things. And they're all good. They're all good tools. But when you're alone in your home, or you're alone in your car, or you're, in your mind going about your day, you don't have any of those people with you. It's just you. So the point is, if you're making that disciplinary sort of decision that you are going to be responsible for yourself, which I find a real confidence builder. And that's one of the things when you were asking me earlier about confidence, it definitely makes you feel a lot more confident because you realize that you have the power, that you're in control of making those choices. We all have choices. And it's like, what are we doing all day long? We're choosing love or fear, we're choosing negative or positive. So it's kind of like a really pivotal moment when you say, hey, you know what? Like, I am going to give myself the accountability to say, hey, you know what? I am the one who can make change. I can do it. I take all the information, and that is wonderful. And we want to take as much information as we can, but then we are alone in our day. No one's in your mind with you. No one's in that space except for your inner voice.
That's why the inner work is the most important work, the awareness. A lot of people wants to understand. I want to understand. Energy, you cannot understand. Energy is everywhere. Sometimes we have feelings and we trying to find the fix, the therapist that's gonna give us the answer, the pill that's gonna give us the answer. But sometimes the awareness is within us. So sitting down, you said that before, writing it down, talking through that, understanding that, not running to find the answers. Sometimes I ask myself a lot of time questions and I don't wait for the answers because
Yes.
our we are all different. Sometimes I need time to digest it. It's
Yes.
time, the awareness come later. It's not a quick fix, it's a journey, it's not a destination. I think people now, with everything is like so fast, we cannot bring healing before we are ready. When we are ready, it comes. Healing, you cannot push and make it quick. Just give me the pill. That's why when we are alone, before we have the drama and the trauma, when we have the time and we are by ourselves to sit down and listen to our thoughts, and this is where we can have the awareness to say, wow, that's
Hmm.
the way I think about myself.
Hmm.
When we attract the other person, they're often our mirrors. They're gonna tell us what we think inside. I hear people telling, they rejected me, they didn't invite me. We didn't want to be there. Before they rejected and didn't invite us, we gave the energy from the inside out. I don't want even to be there. So we think people don't hear us, but energetically, we send vibrations. Those are frequency. People feel it. Good
Yes.
energy means I'm feeling so whole and good inside myself. That's why we vibrating in different frequencies, because this is our vibration. What we tell ourselves, this is the energy that we bring out to our space.
Exactly, exactly. And I think the other thing is, and I'm gonna just be super vulnerable too, and just say, I have, and I've shared this with you, Tammy, but I struggled a lot with compulsive eating in my life. And it was one of the reasons that I also really got a lot out of wearing the rubber band, because it's like we have these, and compulsive eating, by the way, like any other compulsive issue or drugs or alcohol or sex or whatever people are going through,
And people don't
it's
know that, but
yeah,
because we this
it's
and
a
that,
lack, yeah, it's a lack of connection with yourself. You're allowing it's like it's like there's this window, and there's a very, very delicate window of identifying the feeling, understanding what is motivating you to do that. And it's usually shame, fear, guilt, like we said, judgment, compare, all the things that are below love, all the energies. And it's it's so crazy when you think of how much we will acquiesce or give in to that energy because it's what we know. And I think that's the other big thing I want to get to, which has helped me so much in my life is, we talked a little bit just now before the call about, what do we want to let go of? What are we done with? What kind of behaviors, what kind of energy, what kind of habits and, rituals that don't serve you anymore, right? Because we also do so much in our lives because it's something we've always done and we're comfortable with it. So even if it's not a good thing, it becomes a bit of comfort or a crutch or something like that. And the minute you do that, any of these crutches, whether it's gossip or food or liquor or sex, whatever it is, you actually drive a wedge between your divine consciousness and yourself. There's a wedge. Whatever that is, that now is blocking the blessing. It's blocking the manifestation. It's blocking because we are in sort of our base energy. We're not actually honoring ourselves. We're not truly loving ourselves. And that's the trick, right? So I don't know that particular thing for me. I've really noticed, like, even when it comes to just eating very clean or doing my best with, my yoga or this or that, it's like if I'm really focusing on the fact that, I want to be a living example of God's energy. And in order for me to express what I came here to do, I can't have all this stuff around me that's blocking. And the more you start working on it, you see more things. It is a little Pandora's box. Sometimes you have to go through that. But again, I think we approach it from a standpoint of, hey, like exciting, like, let's see what we can get rid of. Let's see what we can unload. You know how good you feel when you clutter bust a drawer or you fix something in your house that's been driving you nuts, and then you're like, like feels so good. Same thing, like energetically for us and with our thoughts, it's like, and I think that being positive is a habit. Being positive, thinking good thoughts is habitual also. So the more you work a tool like this or work a particular mantra, you're constantly on that trajectory of like, hey, I'm getting closer and closer to having my default be positivity, as opposed to my default being shame, doom, gloom, worry, despair. So it's actually just such a exciting and fun process because there is just so much we can't control in the world right now, and it's pretty crazy out there. But what we can control is our thoughts and how we think about things, how we approach things. And that allows us to really invite healing, both spiritual, mental, and physical, right? Because they're all, yeah.
Absolutely, they are all connected, and I'm gonna add to all. You said this so beautifully. Thank you for being transparent. Thank you for your honesty.
Mm.
I think it's sexier to have the other addictions and not food, because food is.
I know. I wish I could say it was sex, but it really wasn't.
Mine was like, I wish I was an alcoholic. It's so sexy compared to food, but
Oh, totally. I
yeah,
know.
I think if we look at ourselves and we understand that a lot of us carrying pain and old stories that cause this suffering,
Yes.
because we didn't agree to be our the gift that God wanted us to be. We didn't agree to um, let our voice be heard. We didn't agree to be seen as the powerful women that we are.
Mhm.
We were covering it with addiction
Mhm.
because we learned to abandon ourselves. For me, every time I was overeating or binging, it's because I was judging myself,
Yes.
was hurting myself, I was punishing, I was abandoning myself. Those are addictions or
Yeah.
forms of abandonment
Mm.
because we did not agree to be heard. We
Mm.
did not agree to step into the power that we are. And um, I want women to understand that when we are playing small, we get hurt. People hurt us. We hurt ourselves. It's
Yes.
it's a form of disrespect
Yeah.
until we have the awareness. Oh, I am tired of it.
Yes.
What can I ask? What can I find instead of it? All we can do is have the awareness, because if we are not ready, me telling someone about that or preaching about that or telling people how to do will not work. Same way
Exactly.
it didn't work for me. All these therapies, 28 years of therapy didn't work
No.
until I stepped up and I said, listen, I'm done. I have to let go of this baggage, people, places, and things that didn't serve me. Same thing you did, you know?
Exactly. And I think the two really strong themes of today as well, Tammy, is just this, the generational thing is massive. I mean, I think people really, really don't understand how much they've inherited on autopilot, that really isn't even their original stuff,
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
yeah, and the only thing I wanted to say there is, my mother for me was just like, I thought she was the most beautiful thing, and just smart and sweet. My mom could never accept a compliment. Always criticized herself, always ran herself down, never felt good about her body. I mean, she just really had such low self-esteem. She really did. And I feel that, you know, it was a big part of what I struggled with, even though I didn't really have those same issues. And yet I loved her so much that I took on all these things, because I was around it all the time. And I started feeling like, well, I guess that's just what we do. We shame ourselves when we don't do this, or we hold ourselves to a standard that we can't achieve, or, things like that. And, I think that, my biggest takeaway and the biggest thing I would love to impart is, we're not perfect, nor will we ever be. And like you said, it's the journey, and the journey needs to be something that we feel excited about, and that we feel like it's a learning and it's a game and it's fun and we can be celebratory, and instead of like acting like it's hard work, because actually the hard work is the pain. The hard work is the suffering. The hard work is not getting what you want and not manifesting the love in your life and the body you want and the career you want. It's actually we're our own worst enemies, right?
We say no to ourselves. As we get older, no one says no to us. We are the ones who are
Yes.
uh, making ourselves small, shedding our lights and staying small. No one says no to us. We say it in our minds, and therefore our actions are not where we need to be. So I wanted to ask you a question, because I think so many people gonna, women especially, gonna benefit from it, because as we get older, we start to struggle with,
Yes.
the wrinkles, the cellulite, the gray hair, and suddenly it feels like we are not enough anymore, like as
Yes.
if we felt good.
I
What
think that's a whole podcast, Tammy. That's a whole nother session.
I know, because if people were watching your photos and the way you are, they will understand how you embody that. So, what would you say to someone who's feeling overwhelmed by those thoughts and doesn't know how to start feeling good in her own skin? Because I couldn't find someone better than you to ask this question.
Oh, that's so kind. Okay, this is what I think, and this does work for me. Now, let me just say, I'll throw this out there as well. I am in a relationship with a 13-year younger man, and that also puts extra pressure on a female. And any of you that are in, your 50s and up, or 40s, 50s, I don't know, but I think the number one thing I could say and impart is that every day, every single day, I say this to myself. I am getting better and better. I'm getting younger and younger, and I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. Like those mantras for me are just, I remind myself that what I'm bringing in the world now is my inner light more than anything else. And that's what I want to focus on, because I am also very vain and struggle with certain things, at different times in my life. But I really, really, and I'm really glad you're bringing this up, because it is another thing that I have absolutely used the bracelet for, which is like the minute I have thoughts of, I'm too old, or I'm getting too old, or, it's never going to work for me now because, I'm not 30 or 40 or whatever it is. And we start being very critical. And I also do this thing where I say, I love and appreciate my beautiful skin. I say that religiously. I dry brush and I say, I love and appreciate my beautiful skin. I think we have to talk nice to ourselves. We just have to honor and love what we have. And the more we do that, the prettier we look, regardless of whether there's a wrinkle there or not. It definitely transcends, your energy transcends anything. If someone walks in the room and they're wrinkled and they come in with a bright light, you're not looking at any wrinkles, you know? But I think, for women, it's like we really have to take that power back in that position of like, we are bringing wisdom and light now. We're at a point where we can share with other women, and, really be able to own that, really own it. And that is hard work and it takes a while. I'm not going to say it happens overnight. You do have to kind of practice like anything. And Tammy, the other thing I always like to, talk about with people is people that go to the gym regularly and who work on their physical fitness and their bodies, they have to do weights. They have to be consistent. They have to keep going. That's how they get better and better and stronger and stronger. It's the same thing with our mind, and the same thing that mind creates our life. If we're not willing to do the discipline to do that over and over again, we can't grow.
It's the
So,
consistency to
yes,
also work on our mind. It's inner work also, not only the gym and the exercise and the way we look outside. We
exactly.
Our look shows what's going on in the inside, because a lot of time you see girls that are gorgeous or men that are very good looking, but you are like, why they have bad energy? And the energy is because inside themselves they judge and criticize and don't feel well within themselves.
Exactly. Exactly. Yes. I want to keep going and going.
So quickly, so we do it. Okay, so I'm gonna say, life is filled with both highs and lows, and there are times when we feel like it's hard to hold on to it. During those challenging times that are overwhelming, what habits keep you grounded and remind you your purpose and your gifts? Because I'm sure people want to know, what do you do to look like that or feel good? Because you mentioned you do the yoga and you do the writing and the love snap. There is something else that help our audience maybe to tap into to help them.
Yes. I'd say the couple things that are really, really imperative I find that are very helpful is I encourage people to make an altar in their home, by your bed, in your bedroom, in your wherever you want to make it. And you put a few things on that altar that are important to you. Obviously, always a candle, you want to light it. Always want to have your pen and paper there. You do your 5 gratitudes in the morning. And then also, you want to say things out loud. When you speak out loud to the universe, it's very powerful. Same thing with pen to paper. And I find when those things are in front of me and I'm seated, I can tap into those energies of those things, whether it's, of something of my mother's or something of my man's or my children or whatever it is. And I can have those things around me when I go into meditation. I do meditate every morning, sometimes longer than others. I definitely always sit down and I try to get 10 minutes in, sometimes 20 if I can. And then same thing in the evening. I do Bikram yoga. I've been practicing that for almost my whole life, it feels. I try to go at least 3 times a week, sometimes four, but the heavy sweating and the heat is really a miracle. It's a healer. Um, Obviously, try to eat as clean as possible. But, I think for me, and which is, why I'm really here and doing Love Snap, is it's the thinking for me. It's the managing of our thoughts. It's really standing guard at the door of your mind because anything you think shows up. So, to that point of feeling vibrant or healthy or good, I can only be vibrant, healthy, and good if I am telling myself and feeling and thinking that I'm vibrant, healthy, and good, right? So it's like keeping those thoughts in the forefront of your mind and keeping, yourself obviously with your routines that are laying the groundwork and helping keeping you in that state. But then, as you know, Tammy, it's the energy that is then created from the thought and the word that we speak and then the action, because the thoughts become the action, right? So along the way, it's like that thought has an energetic vibration and then that becomes the action and then the action becomes the reality. So it's that chain. So if you don't like your reality, you have to go back here. You have to fix this because then you can fix what's in your present moment if you like it or don't like it.
Thank you. Thank you. I can talk to you the whole day, Christiana. Thank you so
Me too.
for being here and for sharing your truth with such a tenderness and clarity. You're such a bright light and someone who's not only doing the work, because I know you and you're showing others how to step into their own truth, the power with love and so much intention. So before we wrap up, can you tell our listeners how they can find you, connect with you, and what exciting things you're working on, because I know you're evolving really fast all the time.
Yeah, you're so sweet. Let me tell you. So this is a love snap. This is how it comes, actually.
COVID, I
Different colors. And what's fun about this is it also has little directions on the back that will tell you how to use it. And it's just a little pouch. And I'll just do it on this arm because it's easier. So you can go to lovesnap.com, which is where you find the bracelets. They're very well made. They just have this little hardware here, and you string the rubber band on it like this, and then you wrap it on your wrist.
so they can see it a little bit. Yeah.
Sorry, there you go. So you wrap it. You can wear it down below or up above. I wore two today just because it's a double love snap day. And so, yeah, and it's lovesnap.com or lovesnap official on Instagram and TikTok. And I do also have journals, but please use any journal. And you can even go get yourself a rubber band right now if that's what you need in the moment. Yeah.
I want to see the your journal. Show me your
Oh,
journal.
okay.
I
It's just
still have the journal you gave me a million years ago.
Oh, you do? Oh, it's so great. Yeah, they're super simple. I like mine unlined because I scribble. I mean, sorry, I don't put anything inside them. I like them just plain so that you can do a mind dump whenever you want. But yeah, so lovesnap.com. They're different sizes and colors. They're for teens, young adults, women, men. And I'm also on Etsy. I'm also on Amazon, but it's lovesnap.com and at lovesnap official. So
Thank you. I'm gonna put all your information in the show notes so people can tap into them and find you easily.
thank you so much, Tammy. I just absolutely adore you. And I would love to keep doing this. And, we can probably do a whole segment on each one of these little topics. So
Wait,
I would love it. I would love it anytime.
sending you love and light. Thank you so much for being here today. I love you. Thank you.
Same. I love you, Tammy. Thank you. And bye so much. So much fun.
If you're curious and want to dive deeper, you are in the right space. I ask you to look within for all the things that you want to do, be, and have. Join me at the Baggage Began Healing Hearts and Minds podcast with new episodes every Wednesday as we discover the path towards healing and transformation.